is like. While you were talking, I was feeling like, there were parts of it that were just playing out like a movie. So thank you for sharing that. So I think that brings us to the end of our demonstration round.
Yeah.
Do drink some water. Take a long, deep breath, because we're now moving to the third segment, which, as you have been made aware, is a rapid fire, so to speak. But, well, legal speak, so we call it the interrogation very creatively. Okay. So are you ready?
I hope I am, yeah.
All right, then. So let's commence the interrogation round with you then, Mr. Khambata. Your first question is...
Please call me Darius, by the way, no Mr. Khambata.
No, see, I've transitioned from Sir to Mr. Khambata. Now, Darius, I can't do.
No, that's a tradition of the Bombay bar. We don't like being called Sir. In the bar, you always, however junior you are, you must address even the senior most either by their name or by their surname. There's no question of calling anyone Sir.
So, all your juniors call you Darius?
I encourage them to call me that, and most of them do. Sometimes a new junior will pop in the Sir, but I don't like that. And that's the tradition of our bar. You call someone by their first name or their surname. That's it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try. I'll just refrain. You know how some Indian women, right? They will not address their husbands by name. So they say, So that's the trick I'm going to use now.
No problem. Do what you wish. No problem.
Okay, super. So your first question then is situation based. Okay, so you're on a boat. There's you and there can be one more person. Okay. And now there are three people that you have to choose to save from. All right. So there is one in the deep sea. There is a law firm partner who regularly briefs you. There is a junior counsel who was a part of your chamber and you really like this junior counsel. And there is a general counsel of a conglomerate who you have a long-standing relationship with. Who will you choose from these three to save?
Oh, it's a no-brainer. My junior, of course. Because in addition, a junior-senior relationship is more than just a professional relationship. You develop a personal friendship. So, of course, this is the no-brainer, the easiest question you gave me.
Wow. That is fantastic and so endearing to hear. Okay, your next question then. You may have argued a matter either directly, against a direct senior or junior. Is there any such memorable matter that comes to your mind? An interesting story around it?
There's several actually, because again, we encourage our juniors to appear against us, which is not the Delhi practice, but in Bombay, that's the practice.
Okay.
I've learned a lot appearing against my own senior, Iqbal Chagla, because I've seen how to conduct oneself, how you always realize the true mettle of a person when you're appearing against him, much more than when you're appearing with him. So you learn a lot, and I hope I carry on the same practice when my juniors appear against me. Some of them already have. I hope that same standard is kept.
Superb. Okay, thank you. Your next question, since you're a huge history buff, if you could go back in history and you're allowed to meet three people, whom would you want to meet and why?
Three is very difficult. It's almost impossible.
You want to keep it one? Shall we make it one?
Even more impossible. One's even more. But I'll give you 5 or 6 names who I would like to meet.
Okay, fair.
So obviously, Cyrus the Great.
Correct.
Ashoka the Great, 100%. Akbar the Great, 100%.
Okay.
Gandhi ji, 100%.
Okay.
And I would say Nehru.
Nehru. Lovely. Okay, super. Your next question then. You do know that you are currently creating history, right? Because many years later, someone may want to write a history book in which you feature. What is it that you would like for them to focus on when they write about you?
I hope they don't write about me, because there's so many greater characters to write about who are going and who are getting ignored, that I think they should first write about a whole lot of other stuff first.
So they take that piece of advice, but now just like
I hope that they write that I tried to do the right thing. I'm not saying I succeeded every time. It's difficult. Actually, it's very difficult. But you try and do the right thing. And the other day I was watching a feature on Socrates, the great Greek philosopher. And his philosophy was that you have to look after your own soul. As long as you do the right thing and the truthful thing, don't worry about others. Which is, of course, a very difficult thing to do. But you just try and do the right thing, basically. And you'll always get criticism. You'll always have someone twisting it, but you'll have to just tolerate it.
Keep trying. Yeah, true. Yeah. Fair. Okay. So what's your favorite historic monument in Bombay?
Again, that's, I think, for me, a very easy answer to give, which is the High Court building. It's a fantastic monument. It's not just a great building, it's a monument to justice. It's a monument sometimes where injustice has also taken place. But in the times that there were. But the amount of justice, the amount of convention, history and law that building has seen, it's a fantastic repository of that.
And aren't you fortunate to visit it very often?
I am. I consider it a great fortune to be able to work in such a, and it's I don't know if you've been in.
I have. But
it's a fabulously devised building. And remember, it was designed for what, 5 or 6 judges at most. And now we have so many, and it's still by and large.
Roughly how many judges sit out of the High Court today, Bombay High Court?
I think about maybe 30. 20 or 25, 30, anything between 20 and 30 at any time.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot of, and judges means lawyers, litigants, staff. So it's a huge
ecosystem around that. That's true. Okay, super. Your next question then. So, as someone who enjoys and cherishes music, do you subconsciously have a song or a genre identified for every mood? So I can give you a couple of moods. Will you tell me if you have something in mind for these songs? I mean, for these genres?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So when you're really drained out with work or just feeling genuinely frustrated, what would you play?
Difficult, very, very difficult question. If you like Western classical music, anyone who likes it will know that's a very difficult. There are thousands of things you could play, but broadly, I would say the one composer who really gives you courage, spirit, and makes you want to fight and hit back and succeed is Beethoven. I mean, he covered a lot in his own life. He was deaf, he was grown, but his music is that struggle constantly and amazing breadth of music, because he starts, his early music is the pure classical tradition of late Haydn, etc. And then in one lifespan of 55 years, the last things that he wrote, and he died in 1827, could have been written in the 20th century. They were that modern. So one man, one lifespan. So fantastic span. So you always find things there that are great pick-me-ups. You hear them and it's great income.
Super. When you're feeling extremely upbeat and positive, what will you listen to?
So again, also lots of Beethoven is there, but there could be so many things. You could Mozart, Bach. These are great geniuses. Each idea of them has been, and I'm going beyond just the melody. I mean, for example, again, people don't understand or realize this, but if you think about the easiest and the most melodious music to listen to, I think it would be very difficult to say the genre other than Western classical music has more. The melodies are just abound. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of great melodies. But apart from that, there's that much more, so great composer, anyone really, I love Brahms, I love Bruckner, who is a great composer. So great stuff. There's a lot of, you can't answer one track. It's impossible to say that.
To pick one. Okay, fair enough. And what about when you're sitting in your easy chair and reminiscing? Is there something for that?
So if you want sad music again, the two great composers, early composers are Mozart and Schubert, who are great melodists, but the pathos and sadness underlying some of their music, though Mozart is always known as a happy tune composer, but actually some of his music is so full of pathos and sadness. But there's a great beauty in that sadness. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. So you have that, you can have some Tchaikovsky, you can have Rachmaninoff, who's an extremely composer full of emotion and pathos. Some Verdi is also really very moving, and lots of stuff again.
Wow.
Okay. Streaming, because you can get it all now on your phone. It lives with you and it's all here.
True. Okay, thank you for answering that. So your next question, what did you do the most which got you into trouble with your parents for as a kid?
So lots of things actually. But I remember one particular incident in Mahabaleshwar, where a whole gang of us used to go out every night and we used to have great fun, and there was this old hotel called the Ripon Hotel, and it always was deserted, and there was a flickering neon light, and we always said it's a Bhoot Bangla and that sort of thing. So we used to all land up there, and we thought we were completely deserted when suddenly, I went up 2 floors, and someone put off the light meters. I thought it was one of my friends. It was plunged into total darkness, and I heard steps coming up. So I thought it's one of my friends. So I jumped out at him, and at that point the lights came on, and I found my hand holding the neck of an 80-year-old man. I almost collapsed in fright. But then of course, that night went on. We were taken to the police station, and then we apologized. And of course, all's well. And years later, I must tell you, the person his son who complained, then came and met me and asked me to appear for him in a matter, which I did. And I sort of very, very reluctantly reminded, I said, "You remember?" He said, "Of course I remember. It was this night." He gave me the date. But of course, he said, "Boys will be boys," and all is forgotten and forgiven. When it happened, that's the only time in my life that my father actually raised his voice to me. Otherwise, my father was a gem. He never fired me, never raised his voice. That's probably the only time he did. So.
Wow. Okay. Super.
And my mom that way was more tolerant and fun-loving, and so between my father and my mother, I got a good balance.
Good balance there. Okay. So I'm sure she must have found this incident fairly funny.
Yeah, she did.
Nice. Okay. Your next question. Fill in the blank. When the chips are down, dash.
When the chips are down is when you show your true mettle, I suppose.
Powerful. Okay. The next one then. If you came with a warning label, what would yours say?
I sometimes have a bad temper.
Really?
Yeah, so beware.
Okay, good. I wish you told us this, when we got in touch with you the first time. It's
a dark secret. It's a dark secret.
All right then. Your next question. If you could permanently redo what lawyers wear to court, what would you declare as the official dress code?
Oh, I'm quite happy the way we are.
You're happy?
Yeah, I think you have to give some sense of decorum, and I think the clothes we wear give us that sense of decorum. I'm not insistent on it. If someone says change the dress, I'm equally happy with that. Right. But I'm quite happy with the way things are.
Okay, super. Are you more productive in the morning, or are you a night person?
So I used to be completely a night person. As a junior, I used to stay up till 3-4 in the morning and then just get up in time to rush to court.
Correct.
Then when you start having children who go to school and you have to get up early, the clock
that changes very quickly.
Then shifts.
So now you're a morning person, out and out morning.
I'm a bit of both actually. I can still stay up late. Sometimes if the work is going smoothly, I just stay up and finish it. But yeah, I can do it in the morning as well.
Okay, super. So according to you, what tells you the most about a person? You meet a new person, what is going to tell you the most?
I think what they do. Always judge a person by what he or she does. That's the only real test. There's no point in highfalutin language or sweet words, but it's in your deeds that you're judged.
Action oriented. Yeah. Follow. Okay. What is the one thing that experience has taught you, but you wish it was taught to you in school or college?
Oh. I really wish, even now, that much more history was taught in school and college, and in a proper way, not in the way it was taught. Because history is just the most interesting narrative of stories, but so many stories that teach you a lesson, that guide you what to do. Because, as I like saying, human nature seems to have remained the same for the last 3,000 years. Don't be fooled by the technological progress that we've made. In terms of humanity, I think we're exactly where we started from. So there's a lot to learn along those 3,000 years of what happened, what people did, how they lied, how they politicked, So history is really a treasure trove of learning. And the problem is if it's seen as a dry subject. But if it's taught in a narrative, story-like way, it can be really fascinating. I think I really think history is a thing we should have learned better in school.
Okay, understood. Super. The next one then, tell us what is one of the pranks that was probably played on you or you've played on someone, like a really good prank.
We used to do a lot, but I'm not going to divulge the confidence of anyone.
What a pity. What a pity.
And those were easier times. Those were more tolerant times. Today, if you did things like that, you'd have a lot of intolerance.
Outrage. There would be a lot of outrage.
You would have just lost a little bit of the sense of humor. that I think we sorely need back. Everything is taken too seriously. I think a little less sensitivity would be in order.
True, but tell us a story. I mean, on a no-name basis.
It wouldn't pass political muster today. So,
okay, let's avoid it because you'll get into trouble and we'll get into trouble, and then we'll have to go to one of your peers for representation. So we'll avoid that completely. Moving on, tell us a household chore that you enjoy and do well.
So again, I'm blessed with a wife and with very loyal old staff who do a lot. But I mean, I do enjoy. I have to do a bit of dusting nowadays, so that I don't mind that at all. And I mean, do the odd jobs. I like doing things around the dining table if necessary. But by and large, I must confess that my wife and my own loyal staff do all that.
Do everything. Okay, super. What about becoming an adult caught you completely off guard? Like you didn't expect it at all?
As an adult? Oh, many things, but certainly when you bring up children, you get all sorts of surprises. And today's generation, God bless them, are far more frank and open with us than we were with our parents. We wouldn't have, so it's always a learning process.
True. Yes, I think you're right about that. There have been moments I've also scandalized my parents. They've been like, that's too much information. We didn't need to know that. So yes, that does happen.
My wife is a little more old-fashioned on these things. I think I'm more open and accepting, but even then.
So you're the cooler one.
I hope.
Okay. All right. Your next question then. What are you hilariously bad at? Like really poor at?
Lots of things. Singing. Oh God. Impossible. I can't open my mouth. I can't even croak. Absolutely impossible. Okay. Making small talk is something I find very, very difficult.
Challenging. It's challenging.
At parties or, I remember in America you had to do that and I found that very, very difficult and painful actually. So things like that, yeah.
That you're really bad at. All right. What challenging time in your life left you a slightly better person after it was finished? Was there a time like that?
Yeah, there were times. The times have been also quite recent. It's not been. I think my parents' illnesses were very challenging emotionally. The weeks at the end of my father's life were very emotional because he was on a ventilator, and at the same time, I was getting trolled in social media because of some outspoken things that I'd said within my community. And I'm glad I said them and I stand by them and I would say them again. But it was a difficult time with your father on a ventilator to read a lot of stuff which was sometimes inaccurate, sometimes unfair. That was a challenging time. There have been times after that as well because people assume something about you because you keep quiet. They don't respect the fact that you may be maintaining silence to protect a whole lot of other things. They assume the worst, and those are always challenging. As law officer, I've had some challenging moments as well. There've been some times when I had to stand up to ministers and things like that. It's not been pleasant. On the other hand, as AG, and I have to say this publicly, I got a gem as a chief minister, Prithviraj Chavan. I couldn't have asked for better. He's a gem of a man, and he really supported me. Without his support, I don't think I would have survived for long, actually. And I must say, there was a moment when there was a breach of privilege motion against me in the assembly. That got sorted out, and I had to threaten to resign. But then, even the opposition were very, very good. I must say that at that time the opposition. Then later, of course, they came into power.
Right.
They were extremely dignified and statesmanlike about it as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot of moments. Thank you for answering.
Those are difficult moments, yeah.
Okay. So what motivates you?
I suppose, I don't know. I mean, there's so much to enjoy in life, We always see the dark side, but there's so many things that you can see, positive side. And you have to give back. So you're motivated to work because there are so many people who are less fortunate. And I truly believe in this. I do believe in earning because you earn so that you can give to others who are less fortunate.
Correct.
So I think it's a duty coupled with the responsibility, and that keeps you going.
Understood. Okay. What is your favorite line, say, from a book or a movie?
Oh, lots.
As a child,
I don't know. I won't even say it. It's unparliamentary, but you should hear the opening speech in the movie Pattern. Fantastic, and it's not only because as we were young we loved it because there was a lot of vulgar language used.
Profanity.
But actually, there was profanity. But actually, what I never realized at that time was that he actually made that speech. And the speech, you see it as a whole, is very motivating. There's another great line in another movie, which is that never hate your enemies because it affects your judgment. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. You will always have people who are your enemies, but just you cannot reciprocate by hating them. It affects you. There are many things like that.
Super. Okay. Next question. Is there, because it's apparently Friendship Day today, we're going to ask you something about a friend. So is there a friend who's had a huge influence or really, been there for a larger part of your life, really standing very close, watching your back?
Many, actually. But my sisters, my wife is my best friend, of course. My sisters are great friends, apart from being sisters as well. My family has been. And I have many, many good friends. And someone who I spoke to just this afternoon, Zari Lalkaka, is a great friend and a really great human being.
Okay, super. All right, your next question then. What is one important skill you think every person must have?
Humanity.
Humanity. So underrated right today.
It's a skill. I'm telling you because a lot of people just ignore it, but it's a skill. You have to learn it.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Because in today's days and times, especially with social media and television, you get carried away on so many issues. But you have to keep on trying to think, what is the humane approach? What's the fair approach?
Correct.
What's the truth? And you have to learn how to do it. So
yeah, it's something you have to work on.
We all fail. I mean, I'm the biggest failure sometimes on that. There's no question. You get carried away. But that's the objective.
Understood. Okay. What are the 3 learnings that you repeatedly, in trying to inculcate in your juniors?
Oh, they're going to give you a long... You should have had them on this program. They ought to give you a long list of things.
But top 3?
I don't know. I think today's juniors are far more accomplished than we were. And they're more mature. They work very hard. They do, and that's a good thing. There's this big running joke between them and me because I always say, whatever the software you've got, look at a good book. A good book on law, good commentary is completely irreplaceable. You'll never get that because some very, very astute person has done a lot of research. He's compressed it all for you. He's explained it for you. Why not get the benefit of that wisdom? And obviously, many of them are more comfortable on their laptops, just putting in queries and searching and things like that. So that's this great thing that keeps on going on.
Okay.
Oh, there's lots of fun. I'm sure my juniors have a lot of fun at my expense, which is fine. I don't mind that at all.
Sounds like fun. Yeah. Okay. So what's your favorite chamber tradition at your current chamber?
So my juniors have started this and good luck to them for that. So every time there is an intern or there's a birthday, we get a cake, they get a cake and we sort of cut it. And they've made interns that come in and out do this thing of giving a chamber report. Okay. At the end of the internship. So the intern has to get up and say things. And the only requirement that is it's frank. It need not be complimentary. Okay. And that's great.
How fun. Okay. That's nice. Good. That's a good feedback mechanism. All right. Almost your last question. If you were tasked to form a music band with your current peers, who would you choose for the following instruments? For drums.
For drums. What are the instruments you're going to give me? So
I'll tell you. I was just going to say, maybe I should tell you all of them. So drums, guitar, flute, keyboard, and vocals.
So vocals is my friend Jimmy Avasya.
Okay.
Easiest one. Okay. Keyboard would be Janak because I think he has that romantic spirit. Drums and timpani, would be my senior Iqbal Chagla, who's really given me so much, and he keeps it all together. And a drummer always keeps a band together. I think, so I think he'd be. And flute, I think Freddie Dimitri would be perfect because he has this mellifluous quality about him. So he'd be perfect. That's your.
Oh wow, that's a great symphony then. And I'm guessing you are going to watch because
I'm going to just sit back and listen.
Correct. Okay, super. Your last question then from our side, since we're closing this season with you, could you tell us one thing that you may have liked or enjoyed about this format and show, and one thing you think can, maybe we need to change it or give it a rethink?
It's perfect.
Wow, thank you. Okay, that's wonderful. So there are a lot of questions actually that have come in for you. Do you have the time and are you open to taking a few?
Yeah, a little while, yeah.
Super. Okay. So Vikas, Neha, Shreya, you guys want to make any suggestions? So, all right.
So, Parveen at the beginning asking to share an experience of an interesting case that you've handled and which is close to your heart.
So, obviously, a lawyer would have several interesting cases, but I think one that was really close to my heart was the PIL that we did, which lasted for several years on Mahabaleshwar and Panchgani, where the BEAG, which is a great NGO with a great reputation, and it was at that stage led by the great Sham Chainani. I think someone should write a book on him. He's done so much for the environment. And he loved Mahabaleshwar. And I remember one day him coming with a little album full of photographs saying that, I went to Mahabaleshwar for a holiday and I didn't even have a camera. So I had to buy a cheap camera in the bazaar and look, this is what's happening there. He showed me a heap of photographs about constructions, etc. And that led to a long litigation. And it was sometimes very frustrating because we really, down to even finding a plot for a sewage treatment plant, we had to do. The corporation initially said they couldn't find one. We had to fight. And ultimately we got some good orders. But I think that fight is still unfinished. It needs to be completed. I then became a law officer, so obviously I couldn't continue. But that was an interesting set of cases and a very interesting personality in the form of Sham Chainani.
There's another question that I'd like to pose. Someone asks, post-COVID, where does the legal profession head? And what are the new skill sets which you think one may need to acquire?
So, as I said, chances are that after COVID is done and dusted, which will be sometime middle of next year, everyone will go back to doing exactly what we were doing earlier. I hope that doesn't happen actually. Because I think some skill sets, one is the written word should now get much more importance than the oral word. I think at some stage, judges are really soft-hearted on this. They feel reticent about controlling a lawyer's arguments, but I think the time will come when there will have to be time limits on arguments. And the only way one can really effectively do that is by insisting on written submissions in advance of arguments. So the lawyer's thought about his arguments, he's focused. The other side is not taken by surprise or ambushed. Everyone is better prepared. The judge has had a chance to see them. And that curtails the length of the oral argument. I really hope we go that way because we have so much talent and much of it is wasted if we don't really focus it. It's up to us lawyers to do all this actually. So I hope that happens.
Okay, thanks for answering that. Another question is actually, it's a bit funny. So someone says, is it still a trend that on holidays you come to office, as we've seen you personally drive and look for parking in your Honda Civic?
Yeah, well, I confess the last few years I haven't been driving myself only because there is no parking at Fountain. It's very difficult with all the work going on. So I have to bring in a driver. Though I used to like driving in on Saturdays.
Right.
But yeah, Saturdays all lawyers work. It's not nothing strange, as you know.
True. And if not at the office, then they're working out of home. So it's definitely happening. Correct.
In fact, really, the part of our profession that works the hardest by far are the judges. even at this time during COVID times, the way they are working, it's a lesson to be learned for all of us. You know, we always complain, but when you see something like this happening, I think it needs to be praised as well.
True. Absolutely. Okay. Mr. Rajiv Luthra says that I didn't know my mate at Harvard conference had this great skill. Brilliant. God bless.
Oh, sir, I have a great story about Rajiv. So, you know, Rajiv he wears this hat. So we were going to this conference at Harvard, and while I was at the immigration with the officer, and you know, US immigration can be quite a daunting thing. You can't speak. Suddenly I heard this booming voice from back shouting, "Hey, bike, and I was trying to tell him to shut up, you know. Finally, the immigration officer said, "No, don't worry, he seems a jolly chap." I said, "Yeah, he is, he's great. He's a great chap."
Okay. All right. Someone's asking, would you ever consider taking up a judicial position?
It's, as they say, cadit question. The question doesn't arise. But I can now see the value and the satisfaction that judgeship would bring to anyone. I can see it in my colleagues who have accepted judgeship. Mm-hmm. I can see that, you know, the way they've grown, the satisfaction and the sheer enjoyment and the ability to change people's lives. So it's a wonderful thing. I mean, all of us have made career choices. Correct. So I hope that wasn't a mistake.
Okay. And I think we'll take this one as your last question. Someone wants to know, how much time do you spend with family?
Oh, at the moment, quite a bit, actually. Quite a
bit.
But yeah, it's in fits and starts. You know, today's youngsters also are very busy. So, you know, correct. It's not so, yeah, it's never enough, but it's good.
But do you as a family have like a ritual that everyone has to be home, say at dinner time, so that you all eat together?
We try and do meals together. Yeah, I think that's even from when I was a child, my parents used to like us all eating together. I think that's very important in families, so we still do that.
Okay, super.
I want to ask a quick question. There's a question. What about what are the best legal commentaries you'd recommend to young lawyers?
Oh, it depends on what subject. It just depends on what subject. But that's an excellent commentaries. You have to. I mean, you have to ask around. But there's some. All the Mullah commentaries are still very good. Sirvai's constitutional law is superb. Modern Indian writers, I find the book by Samarditya Pal on the Contempt of Courts Act is a masterpiece, because it's not a humongously large book. It's a small book, but it really gives you every principle and every case that you want. So there are lots of great books.
Super.
So wait, before you go, I have another question that I found interesting. Someone's asking, what is the funniest thing you've heard about yourself?
No comment.
What? No.
No, I really wish you could answer.
Let me retreat into my lawyership now.
You're in contempt. You're in contempt of our program.
If you were in a court of law, then you would have to answer this, right? So can we pretend that you are in a court of law? Tell us the lesser controversial one.
The funniest things that happened to me is when one of my interns came and asked me to sign a confidentiality undertaking before he told me something, and he was put up to it by my juniors. So I just gave to them and said, "What are you asking me to do?"
Wow, that is evil. So this intern knew he or she was being set up, or
He didn't. Poor chap, he was very innocent. He didn't.
Oh no.
Then later he did. When I said, "Look,"
of course. Oh wow, your chamber seems like a fun place.
That's what I've learned from my senior. My senior encouraged irreverence, which is a great democratic sort of principle, and I'm just trying to pass on the same values.
Super.
There's one personal question for me. And also asked by Mohit Khanna. Any history books you would recommend, either Indian or foreign?
Oh, there's so many. I did an interview recently by read Gandhiji's autobiography. It's amazingly interesting. Discovery of India. There's a book called Persian Fire, written by Tom Holland. That will give you a nice idea of antiquity. There are all sorts of books. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, hundreds of books. So anything that history books you've got to pick up, you've got to leaf through, and you've got to get a sense of them. And there's so much being written now which is not heavy researched history. I mean, it's all researched, but it's put out in a narrative form, which is what you should look for.
Yeah, I'm reading a lot of Ramachandra's
Guha's
at the moment around Gandhi. Yeah,
I haven't started them as yet, but I've got the 2 volumes here. He's very good. He's excellent.
And I went through a phase a couple of years ago where we Ranveer Singh, so the Punjabi king who united the Punjab in the 19th century. Some amazing books around. He's another incredible character.
There's a very interesting book called Maharanis, about 4 Maharanis.